Listener advisory. This is just a stupid podcast we're doing for shits and giggles, so we apologize to anybody that has to be subjected to, well, you know, all of this. If you stick around long enough, I'm sure you'll see what I mean. If you find dark humor and discussing awful shit with a bit of levity distasteful, well, how do you exist? Seriously, what's your secret and how do you live like that? It's weird. But really, this podcast will probably not be for you, and you'd be better off listening to any of the more somber-toned true crime podcasts that are available, because there are tons of them. For those of you still listening, you sick and twisted fucks, welcome to the worst. If we did this right, hopefully you won't like yourself by the end, but you'll laugh.
That's my honey.
Yes, it is. Hello, and welcome to The Worst, the podcast of everything that is the worst. I'm your host, Mark, and sitting next to me is my lovely wife and co-host, Gina.
Hello.
And together, of course, as always, we are...
Mental Illness Theater.
Mental Illness Theater. My wife knows.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She knows too much.
I found out all your secrets.
She's one of those smart women.
Please don't skin me.
We know what happens to the smart ladies.
Not good things, generally.
So how are you doing today?
I'm really good.
I'm about to die, apparently. Get some water to put that fire out.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
There we go.
Woo! Do you want to hear a story?
I love your terrible stories, honey.
That's good, because we have a terrible but pretty simple one today. I mean, there's not a lot to it, but then there is.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Today we have an awful story for anyone that fears drowning.
Hello.
Or expects people to take responsibility when an accident happens and people die.
What?
Yeah. Today we have the Marchioness disaster.
Ooh.
Which is, in short, big boat hits little boat with a bunch of passengers and just fucks it. It just fucks it. This boat sinks incredibly fast and then no one's ever held accountable for anything.
Nice. That sounds like a really fun story.
It's British, which, you know, with inquiries that take 10 years to prove nothing and whatnot, we see where we get our system in Canada.
Yeah, it's very familiar.
Hey.
Looking at you, mass casualty commission.
Every Canadian inquiry that's ever happened, ever. Because, I mean, I'll say this, because I've said this to you two. Gina, my wife, my lovely wife. For as much as I might go on about Americans and whatnot, when they have a congressional hearing and they bring people there to answer, they fucking answer. They're out for blood and you don't get away. It doesn't take years.
Yeah.
And I like that about the American system. Whereas in Canada and Britain, we will have inquiries and just everything that takes years and years and years.
It's trauma-informed.
And 20 years later, you might get some of the information you were looking for.
Yeah, but by 20 years later, does that really make a difference?
And you've probably had to fight for every bit of that information.
Yeah, you've spent 20 years fighting tooth and nail to find that information that isn't going to change anything, because no one's going to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we have with the Marchioness disaster. So, have you ever been on a booze cruise?
I've been on a cruise.
But not
There's
like a booze...
a lot of booze on a cruise.
But you know the booze cruise types.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the theory, but I've never really been on a booze cruise. I've gone on a dive trip.
Yeah.
That had
Booze cruise is literally we're going around the harbor to come back to exactly where we started, very slowly, and we're going to drink and listen to music. That's it.
Technically, I have, because there was a sunset cruise. I was just 13, so I wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
You know, we had juice.
But yeah, a sunset cruise, that type of
punch
thing.
for my folks when we were in the Cayman Islands.
That is totally a booze cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a big boat. It was a little boat.
They usually are.
Probably had 10, 15 people.
They usually are, because I've been on a couple booze cruises. Two, actually. Two in my life. One in Halifax Harbor, and it was fucking awful.
That sounds miserable.
And the one in Mexico, which I went through everything someone on a boat could go through.
Every phase of grief.
Yeah, because when I got on, I don't have good sea legs, and I couldn't even stand up. Then I had a couple drinks, and I was doing okay. Then I had a couple more, and I was dancing, everything was fine. Then I had a couple too many, and I was right back to, I can't even fucking stand up. And then we met some people on the boat who went and got us high afterwards. So it was fucking great.
Yeah.
But yeah, these people,
Didn't have such a fun time?
their booze cruise did not go as well. On an August night in 1989, on the Thames River, in the heart of London, and I mean the heart of London,
Yeah. Thames is...
one booze cruise didn't go so smoothly. So shortly after leaving the dock and getting out into the river, the Marchioness, the party boat in question, was rammed from behind by a dredger over 3 times its size, rolled over, and sunk. Of the 130 or 31 people on board, there's some debate. 51 were killed, with the majority of these victims being stuck in the ship when it got rolled.
Yeah, well, that'll happen if it rolls fast, right?
And yeah, it was a fast fucking roll. We'll get into the speed of it, but it didn't take long. After the initial nightmare of the night of August 20th, 1989, things were made so much worse for the survivors and families of the victims by the actions of the press, who seemed bent to blame the partygoers for their own drowning, to the government, who seemed to want to do anything but look seriously at what the fuck had happened.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah. The families...
you shouldn't have gone on the booze cruise.
Yeah, and we'll get into why they do that. It's fucking awful.
Because people love to victim blame.
I know I'm going to butcher this name, so let me apologize in advance. August 20th was Antonio Di Vasconcelos' 26th birthday, and his friends had planned a full night of partying. Di Vasconcelos was a young banker from a Portuguese family, and the majority of his friends were similarly successful young people, and many had jobs in finance, fashion, the arts, etc., etc. So in short, they're yuppies.
Yeah.
They're young, they're doing well. They're yuppies.
Yeah.
The evening of the 19th, the group had a large dinner party before heading to the Thames River for a booze cruise they had booked beforehand. Well, not exactly in line with their yuppiness, booze cruises were relatively new on the Thames, and the novelty had intrigued the group. Because I had wondered what, and when you see pictures of what were fucking yuppies with money doing on this goddamn boat. This is not a boat, people...
It's the hip new thing, though.
It is. It's a new thing. Let's get drunk on a boat.
Yeah, let's go axe throwing.
Jesus Christ. Nothing against axe throw. I actually would like to go axe throwing.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It's weird how it's just become this weird new thing.
It just
and
exploded.
Everywhere.
You go to a bar and there's axe throwing. It's like, I don't think these two things should be connected.
No.
Yeah. Here's a pint. Here's an axe. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Can't even take...
I'm amazed it hasn't gone sideways yet.
I'm sure it has, but...
We'll have to find it.
Big axe throwing is keeping it quiet. Named the Marchioness, the party ship was a 66-year-old craft built in 1923. And to be frank, it had seen much better days. In the summer of 1940, the Marchioness had been one of the small ships that participated in the evacuation of Dunkirk during the Nazi invasion of France. Yeah, but by the late 80s, she was a rather run-down pleasure ship working the Thames River. For specs, she was 85 feet long, about 14, 15 feet wide, and weighed 45, 46 tons.
That's a pretty big boat.
It's a decent-sized boat because she had a capacity of 165 people.
Yeah.
So this is not a tiny little shit tub.
No.
You know,
It's not like the little boat I was out on a booze cruise with, but that also wasn't shitty either. It was a relatively new fishing boat.
I feel like this was probably close to the size of the one in Halifax.
Yeah.
Whereas the one in Mexico was pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan Fang, one of the planners of the party, wasn't impressed with the ship when he went with a friend to book it, and he said, quote, "It looked and smelled like a floating pub."
Cool.
And apparently, I didn't know, this guy was later in, like, British reality show shit, because he got into fashion, and he just seems like the most hilarious. He's the guy I mentioned, reminds me of, like, a British, David from Schitt's Creek.
Dan Levy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he reminds me of him. Just like, he's got snark, but it's so funny. It's just so quick. Like, yeah, I found him just the greatest.
I love good snark.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has good snark, and he's just really good timing and very funny. So I found, like, the shit that I saw with him talking, just like, oh yeah, you're fucking hilarious.
Oh, he's met my brother, so.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Now, the Marchioness basically had 3 areas, with the back of the ship having 2 levels, upper and lower, and the front of the ship being like a split level between the 2 rear levels, and serving as the main dance floor. So there's like a higher level, a lower level in the back, and then in between those is the front level.
Alright.
So imagine like a split level house.
Yeah.
And then the front level kind of sits in the middle, with the captain's bridge like in front of that.
It's weird setup, but okay. I'm just trying to picture it. I like to have a map in my head of how I'm going to drown, you know. So there's kind of a central staircase.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 levels that shoot off of it.
Yeah.
2 in the back and 1 in the front, and the front one is literally in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that middle one actually was the main dance floor.
That makes sense.
It was equipped with 7 lifeboats in total and multiple flotation devices, and all 3 levels had large sliding windows. Very large, yeah. Now the Bow Bell this is the other boat involved. She was an aggregate dredger, designed to carry gravel and silt from the riverbed, and she was 262 feet, so much longer, 45 feet long, or wide, and her tonnage was 1,850 tons, compared to...
So 97 feet longer, and...
The tonnage of the other one's 46 tons, and this one is 1,880. So, way fucking bigger. And Bow Bell had been modified for her role as a dredger, and because of machinery placed in the front of the ship, her lack of forward visibility made the ship barely seaworthy. In fact...
that's sketchy.
Yep. In fact, on the night of the collision, the Bow Bell had a 400-meter, or nearly quarter-mile long blind spot directly in front of it as it navigated the Thames River that night.
Which is not trying to find a word, you know.
Negligible amount of distance.
Yeah, and it's also not a river that isn't trafficked.
Oh, it's
a
super
busy
fucking
river.
trafficked.
Yeah.
You've got bridges everywhere crossing it, so
Right.
and then you have all types of craft, other dredgers, you have pleasure shit, and it's not a huge river. It's not this big, wide, like, it's tight. So this guy's got nearly...
This is absolute insanity.
A quarter mile, yeah.
Thames. Like, that's just nutcase. What the fuck?
Yeah. This blind spot necessitated there be at least one lookout at the front of the ship at all times, but this lookout had no way to communicate with the bridge other than to yell.
Oh my god.
Which, like you just said about the Thames, it's also loud. There's
Yeah,
shit
right?
all down the riverfront. There's other boats. There's multiple party boats cranking out dance music. And
there's just bars along cranking out music.
And then this guy's got to yell back over a couple
even have
hundred...
walkie-talkies. It's...
Nope. Nothing. So...
What year was this again?
1989.
That's what I was going to guess. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Because, like...
Walkie-talkies exist, motherfucker. Come on.
Jesus Christ.
You can pick up a toy set.
I don't even know. Because, once again, this ship is 260-odd feet long.
Yeah.
So, bridge to the bow,
lookout,
I guess it would
right?
be.
How far is that?
Yeah. It's got to be...
You can't even give them some, like, little light-up things like the airport guys have so you can signal?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, people.
Nothing. Just yell.
Oh, my God. This is...
You like the setup?
I don't like water, so, yes.
Dark water. The Thames, too, because the other one, the guy I mentioned who was
poop-filled
super
Thames.
snarky that I love, Jonathan Fang, he mentioned when they went to get on the boat that you could see the trash floating in the water. He even looked at his friend and said, like, disgusted, could you imagine going into this water? And that's how he said it, too. And he was like, I had no idea.
I was about to be going into
Right.
that goddamn water that is full of trash and poop and every fucking thing you can imagine.
Take your pick.
Yeah,
It's
no,
in the
there's nothing
Thames.
good there. It's not a swimming river. Oh god, it's so awful.
At 1:20 a.m., the partygoers from Antonio Vasconcelos' birthday set off for their post-dinner party booze cruise on board the Marchioness. They left the dock 20 minutes after they were supposed to, but it seemed to make little difference at the time, because you're all a little bit drunk from the big dinner party you had with your friends for your friend's birthday.
Yeah, right.
Who cares if you're 20 minutes late? You gotta make sure everyone's on the boat.
Yeah.
Right. And as a pleasure cruise, the Marchioness moved through the river at a leisurely speed of 6 kilometers per hour, or about 3.5 miles per hour. So very slowly down the Thames. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're not getting anywhere. You're going back to where you started. You're just going
Right.
out for some hours, and that's it.
Yeah, it's just so you get to drink on a boat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
10 minutes before the Marchioness had launched, the Bow Bell had left Battersea on the Thames just 3 kilometers away. It moved at about 10 kilometers per hour, or just over 6 miles per hour, and at that pace, it would have to overtake the Marchioness somewhere between the Southwark Bridge and the Cannon Street Railway Bridge in central London. And once again, this is central because this is about 200 meters or yards from the London Bridge, and about 500 meters or about a half kilometer, 500 yards away from the Tower of London.
Yeah.
This is as in London as you can get.
You are downtown.
So it's a good thing we have a huge dredger full of shit just plowing through this river.
Right.
Passing under multiple bridges I'm sure it barely even fucking saw.
Yeah, because it can't see.
God damn. The Marchioness also had multiple things working against it for this disaster to happen. The Marchioness had multiple things working against it for this disaster to happen. First, the captain, Stephen Faldo, didn't post lookouts of any kind around the ship. And second, with the main dance floor directly behind the bridge of the ship, he had a lot of trouble hearing or replying to radio traffic from other ships on the river.
Damn it. Bad design. Yeah.
Very bad design. It turns out that was only designed in 1978. Before, they didn't have that middle part, which was the main dance floor, so this wasn't a problem. But that also means this must have been a problem for like a decade.
Yeah.
That was never resolved.
It's fine, just ignore it.
Because I'm pretty sure Faldo dies in this, so they don't know exactly, but from the actions of the ship, it doesn't look like he heard any of the radio calls of what's about to happen. Yeah, I don't know if that's better or worse.
Well,
I mean, for them, it's much worse that it happened, but not knowing compared to knowing that it's barreling down on you.
Yeah, I mean...
So other than the giant blind spot, the Bow Bell had more bullshit happening on board than the party boat.
Oh, God.
Yep. One lookout, Terrence Blaney, was up front as lookout, but like we mentioned, he had no way to communicate with the captain. And Blaney had been seen drinking 7 UK pints of beer, which is the equivalent of 11 beer here. Also of stronger beer, because we're talking UK beer. That's stronger than even Canadian beer.
Woo!
On the afternoon of the 19th.
I would have been out cold.
And he wasn't the only one. The captain of the ship, Douglas Henderson, had been seen drinking 6 UK pints, or the equivalent of 9.5 North American beer, with Blaney during the same time. And he later said he had a meal before taking a quick nap when he got back to the ship at 6 p.m. So he's basically saying, yeah, but I ate some of the carvery and fucking...
Had a nap.
Had
So
a nap
I'm good
on
now.
the ship. I'm good to fucking pilot the ship.
Yeah, I'm totally not hammered.
No, he's got this, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, look at the results. He drove perfectly.
Now, what you gotta give him, Henderson, the captain, did make all his radio calls as he went down the Thames. It is believed that the Marchioness never heard any of these, especially Bow Bell's call of its intention to pass, because he did see it, but then he didn't see it.
Yeah.
Right? So he called to pass, and then the blind spot, shit goes downhill. So to recap, Now we have a party boat with no lookouts, and it has trouble hearing its radio to the point it can't hear its radio. And a dredger many times its size barreling down the Thames with a huge blind spot directly in front of it, a lookout, and a captain who have been drinking heavily hours before, and the lookout can't even communicate with the captain if he wants to.
Yeah, so...
What could
system.
What could go wrong?
Well-oiled machine.
Like I mentioned, this one is simple.
Oh, it's incredibly simple.
You see it coming.
Yeah, it's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easily fucking preventable, too.
Maybe that dredger shouldn't have been on the Thames.
Right.
Is number one thought.
Yeah. Maybe if you're drinking, you shouldn't be freaking sailing.
Yeah. The giant ship with a blind spot.
Yeah. Also, probably shouldn't be acting as a lookout if you've been drinking that heavily.
I'm on a ship in England. I'm going to be drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Probably sodomized.
Yeah.
Rum sodomy in the lash, baby.
As is tradition.
As is tradition. This is not tradition. This is not tradition at all. The Bowbell successfully passed the Marchioness's sister ship, the Hurlingham, before coming up to the Marchioness.
I'm sorry, but Hurlingham is the best name ever.
Some of these names are great. Yeah. Captain Henderson called out his intention to pass over the radio, which meant the Marchioness should have stayed to the right and let her pass. You let the bigger, faster ship past you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a highway.
Exactly. Yep. As they came up to the Southwark Bridge, the Marchioness passed through the central arch of the bridge instead of the right arch, and she continued to drift to the center as Bowbell attempted to pass. So she's in the wrong archway of the bridge going through the bridge, and she's just drifting more to the center as this bigger ship is trying to get past her, which...
Not
at this point, can't see her either.
That's helpful.
The big ship's doing this completely fucking blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And drunk. A little bit, possibly, maybe even hungover by that point, but you're not 100%.
Yeah.
Because they were drinking in the afternoon, but whatever. Even I don't care.
You're definitely not the top of your game.
Even if you're not drunk, you're still having effects from that alcohol of some type, whether it's the effects of the actual alcohol or the effects of the hangover afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah. At this point, after passing under the Southwark Bridge and about a minute from colliding, neither ship had any idea of where the other was. And honestly, the Marchioness had no idea that the Bowbell was even there. Except for a few people on the Marchioness that watched in disbelief as the Bowbell closed in on them.
Oh, well, that's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Drunk and you're just watching this ship loom closer and closer.
Are they going to move? And this is also relatively slow speed, so it's like, is this really happening?
Right?
Yeah. At 1:46 a.m., after passing the Southwark Bridge, but before going under the Cannon Street Railway Bridge, the Bowbell struck the Marchioness about 20 feet from its rear, slightly turning it to the left and pushing the smaller boat in front of, and broadside, in front of the Bowbell.
Okay.
So it hit it kind of near the rear and just knocked it...
sideways and pushed it.
Exactly. Then there was a second impact about 33 feet from the rear, so right, getting much more towards the middle. The much larger boat ran over the left side of the Marchioness, tearing the upper level of the ship off with its anchor.
Oof.
Yeah.
Hope you weren't upstairs.
Right. Before rolling the Marchioness on its side, after which it quickly sank.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
In total,
flip a boat.
It took just 30 seconds for the booze cruise to sink, with one witness from the shore saying that, quote, it was like a bicycle being run over by a truck. Just whomp, gone.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Dark, and now you're cold and wet and disoriented and at best.
And drunk. You got a couple drinks in you for sure. Absolutely. Many survivors said they felt a thump, then heard the sound of wood splintering, and before they knew it, they were in the water.
Yeah.
Like, that was just it. There was no reaction. You were either stuck or you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in 30 seconds, really, you're either stuck or you're not.
That's just
There's
it.
no getting... Yeah.
And because of the warmth of the night, most of those big sliding windows that I mentioned had been left open. This helped many people get off the boat who were close to the windows but underneath.
Yeah.
But it also meant that the fucking ship sunk like a rock.
Well,
because as soon as it's tipped, those open with whoosh.
Yeah.
And on that picture, you saw how low some of those windows are. They're right. Because it's for the River Thames.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
not
getting a
for
fucking
the ocean.
You're not getting a wake. Right? Exactly. It's not built for this.
No.
Not many small pleasure craft are built to be run over by a dredger, but, you know.
But this one really wasn't built to be turned on its side.
Yeah, really fucking wasn't.
Yeah.
And for its part, the Bow Bell didn't even bother to slow down,
Ugh.
let alone stop, drop lifeboats or jackets, or even make a mayday call.
Good job, guys.
All they did was make a radio call after continuing down the river, mostly because another call called out the wrong bridge. And so they called to basically say it was a different bridge, and then the call went, quote, "I have to get underway now and proceed out through bridges. I believe I have struck a pleasure craft. It was sunk. I am getting clear of the bridges now. I was distracted by flashing lights from another pleasure craft. My vessel is proceeding outward bound, just approaching Cannon Street Bridge, and well, I just lost steerage, and I don't know after that. I can't really say anything else, sir. Over."
Okay, drunkie.
That's all he says.
That is the most drunken,
That's
rambling response to killing a bunch of people I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I believe I have struck a pleasure craft. It has sunk.
I was distracted by flashing lights of another pleasure craft.
Yeah.
I'm just going.
Yeah. One poor survivor, this poor fucker. Andrew Sutton watched as one of his friends drowned just below the surface. Because the Thames isn't that deep.
No.
Yep. He said he felt his leg get stuck on something as he made his way to the surface, and after breaking away and making it, he went back to see what it was, because he thought it was someone grabbing.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's when he saw his friend Tony, and I'm pretty sure that's Antonio de Vasconcelos, the birthday boy. And he was stuck in the wreckage drowning, and this poor fucker, Andrew Sutton, had to, watched it.
Ugh.
Yeah. He's not... I mean, he seems to be doing decently, but when he talked about it, it wasn't great.
No.
No, not great, and not the best. Yeah.
Not happy about that?
Mm-mm.
I don't think I'd be too happy about that either.
No.
Might stick with you a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Jesus
Yeah.
fucking Christ.
Now, the first mate of the Marchioness, Andrew McGowan, had been thrown from the ship on first contact, but he actually swam back, or made it back to the sinking ship, and because it was, like I said, not very deep, he was able to actually hold the main dance floor open, and a ton of fucking people survived because of him.
Good.
Yeah. And also, the sister party ship, the Hurlingham, was just 200 meters or yards away from the crash, and she was immediately on site to pull survivors out of the water.
Hey.
Yep.
Look at that. Someone doing something to help.
Yes, and
just driving away.
And honestly, first responders, the police showed up very quickly, and they pulled the rest of the survivors. So actually,
well, it is downtown, so
everybody was there quick, and it's not the initial response that anyone was upset with.
No.
Yeah.
Except by the ship that hit them.
Yes, I mean, they basically hit and ran in a giant boat.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not upset about anybody's response about anything except that fucker.
And the weird thing is, the Hurlingham was having a party of its own.
Yeah.
So these people went from party mode to watching the exact same fucking boat get crushed to pulling the survivors out of the water and dealing with that.
Yeah, you know.
Rough fucking night.
No. It's a breeze. That's how all my parties go.
Right.
Luckily it's not.
So this resulted in 51 deaths. And this was the worst disaster on the Thames since September 3rd, 1878, when the paddle steamer Princess Alice collided with the steamer Bywell Castle, resulting in the deaths of 600 people.
Woof.
We're talking old school wood shit. Like, as soon as you hear paddle ships are always the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, but 600 people.
Rough fucking day in the river.
Yeah. Oof.
But the fact this type of thing could happen in the middle of London in 1989 truly shocked a lot of people.
Yeah.
This wasn't the only time a dredger from the same company as the Bow Bell had hit a ship from the same company as the Marchioness.
God.
In 1981, the fucking Hurlingham had been hit by a ship called the Bow Trader. And this was 3 months after the Bow Bell, the ship that had just ran over, hit a passenger launch. Also in 1982, the Bow Bell hit the Cannon Street Bridge. And a month later, almost hit another passenger ship.
Why were these allowed to be going at all?
Yeah, so this is just...
What the hell?
It bounced off the bridge that it later was coming up to, and it ran... just...
You know.
Yeah. Also, because there had been no head count on the Marchioness when people got on, friends and family had to find out the fate of their loved ones by calling around and asking if anyone had seen them. Yeah.
That's lovely.
And the police were almost zero help on that because they didn't know. They had to go through all the people to find out who was on the boat. You also probably want to double check that. So it's, yeah. One survivor was asked by the police to inform the mother of a victim that her son had died because she was headed in that direction.
Why is it my job?
Yeah. And another mother, Margaret Lockwood, was informed that her son had died when the police straight up asked her what funeral home she was planning to use. That's how she had confirmation that her son was dead.
Oh my god, they suck so bad at this.
And this, the press wasn't much better. It ranged from basically they're a bunch of yuppies, fuck them, to full-on homophobic slurs being put in articles because some of the people who were on the boat were gay.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean articles that are just full-on fucking just gay slurs. That's the entire thing. It's just coded gay slurs about, we're not going to have these kind of people walking around the streets anymore. And it's just like, they fucking drowned on a booze cruise.
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
Unless you're eating babies.
Yeah,
You're
right.
like, fuck.
Come on.
You're fucking monsters. But
Yeah,
that's
seriously.
the tabloid press in the UK, too.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Like, wow.
They're not nice people.
No. Yeah. They are not nice people.
It's your wife's hot take.
It is. Now, the Marchioness was located and raised on the afternoon after the accident, the 20th, with 24 bodies being found still inside the craft. The remaining 27 bodies were located over the next few days, and then began the process of identifying these bodies. This is where the shit hits the fan and gets super fucking weird.
Fuck.
This was the detail I had been... Usually I tell Gina a little bit about what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And but sometimes the detail's just so sweet, I don't say anything. I just wait for it. This is one of them. Now, okay, I get that it's August and it's water. You know this better than I do. Let's start this off.
Okay.
How long in August in Britain, so we're talking, say, 80s, 80 Fahrenheit, low 20s for us, mid-20s. How long in that type of water before a body gets so fucked up that you're going to have trouble identifying it from visual or...
48 hours tops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, most of these bodies were recovered in that amount of time. There were a couple, but...
I mean, it gets difficult fast because bloating happens, but within 48 hours, you should have some clues.
Okay.
You know?
Now, keeping that in mind, many of these people had identification on them. They were wearing clothes that could be identified that they wore at the
That's
party.
what I mean by you're going to have clues.
Their dental records.
Yep.
There are a lot of ways, because this isn't
Even down to the basics of hair color, eye color, height. You're going to have some clues.
These are not, this isn't 2 weeks in the swamp.
No, absolutely
right?
not.
Where everything's gone.
Yeah.
This is...
You've got a lot to work with.
Even with a bit of decomp, you've got a lot to work with.
Yeah.
So despite everything we just said, the decent shape of the bodies, carrying of IDs, wearing identifiable clothes during the party, the coroner in charge of the investigation, one Mr. Dr. Paul Knapman, ordered the hands of 25 victims to be removed for, quote, identification purposes.
He felt like wearing some fingerprints, did he?
Perhaps, not coincidentally, Dr. Knapman, quote, was on holiday for some of the relevant period. Yeah.
He's on vacation.
He's on vacation. This happens. And he comes up with the great idea, just chop the fucking hands off for identification. Or he's there and he wants to go on vacation because they don't mention which part.
Yeah, right.
So he could also... I got my fucking vacation in Barcelona already planned out. Mm-hmm. Those tickets are non-refundable. We got to do this quick. We don't have time to wait for dental.
Yeah, right.
We don't have time to wait for all this. So...
I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Even some of the victims that had been identified by dental records had their hands cut off in order to get fingerprints to cross-check the identification. That's how they explain that, which makes no fucking sense.
No.
But still. And to, quote, not traumatize the family members. No family members were informed about the decision to de-hand their loved ones, and many wouldn't even find out until years later.
No, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you that.
So that's, of course, as bad as it's going to get, right? The mess continued, as some family members received the wrong bodies, and one mother, originally from the Caribbean, Judy Wellington, was given a white body instead of her son.
That's going to be pretty obvious.
When the authorities corrected the mistake, they asked Judy not to tell the other families because, quote, it was a one-off mistake.
I somehow doubt it was a one-off mistake.
Judy kind of thought that too when she got her son Simon back with his hands chopped off.
Yeah.
She felt this is a real insult because Simon was a high-end artist and musician. He made his living through artistic hands, and these people just chopped them off. My wife, who is an artist, is looking at me funny, and me, who's a drummer, I mean, partial musician, is also looking funny. Because that's really...
Yeah, no.
That's really disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and there was also ID found on Simon Wellington's body that identified him as Simon Wellington. Another family member, Sally Smith, had been told her daughter's hands had been removed for her identification, even though Sally later said, quote, I have no doubt I could have identified her. I was expecting she might have lost a limb in the accident, but she hadn't, and to think she had then had her hands severed, I was so devastated that I think it was worse than actually knowing about the disaster.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, why are you chopping her up?
It's bad enough, but you can rationalize an accident, but then authorities go and chop her fucking hands off. And then lie to you about, we didn't want you to see the body. Because she saw the body and was like, it's fine.
Right?
Like,
that's my daughter. Yeah.
I could have ID'd it, but yeah. There was also no written records taken during the de-handing of the drowning victims.
Jesus Christ.
And the official line was that the families weren't allowed to see the bodies before burial or cremation because their deterioration would be too upsetting. So, for some reason, a police force using, we don't want to traumatize the family to cover something up.
That's such a...
My hot take is this. I'm going to scroll up here and make an ass of myself. But when you go back up to dude's first call after he hits the Marchioness, I have to get underway now and proceed out through the bridges. I can't really say anything else, sir. What was on that boat? Because he seems really eager to get out of there and literally says, I have to get underway now. And then finish this with, I can't really say anything else. And then it seems like the police go out of their way. Like, they literally tell every family, you can't see the body. Well, like, we're going to take care of it. We'll cremate them and bury them. But you can't see the bodies.
That's weird.
There's something... I don't like this case.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all. In July 1991, Douglas Henderson, the captain of the Bow Bell, who had been drinking the afternoon before with his blind spot going 10 kilometers an hour down the Thames fucking river,
winner,
he was acquitted of neglecting to have a lookout after 2 juries failed to reach a verdict. The next month, the Marine Accident Investigation Branch published a report absolving everybody possible of responsibility, and this was seen as a total whitewash by the families. Yeah,
because someone's responsible.
Right. And in 1995, an inquest found that those who had drowned on board the Marchioness had died unlawfully. But still, no charges were filed because the prosecutor saw little chance of actually winning the case. So now we have 51 unlawful deaths, which means if it's not lawful, someone did something wrong and should be held responsible. Mm-hmm. Or am I just being naive here?
No, you are correct. But I can see from a prosecutorial standpoint.
Oh, no. I get the prosecutor.
The boat was in the middle.
Yeah.
And wasn't where it was supposed to be. You have a hard time
getting
getting those charges.
I don't blame the prosecutor at all for not pressing charges. He knows what kind of chance he has with pressing charges.
Yeah.
But the fact that you now have 51 unlawful deaths and nobody
is ever held responsible.
Nobody being held responsible whatsoever is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And this was followed up.
Not even civilly.
No.
See, that's
because
the real
in
kicker.
British law, apparently, unless you don't just need the unlawful death, you need to prove that unlawful death was linked to a person's actions to be able to get them civilly. And because they can't, because they've never actually said it was this guy's fault,
or
the most they've ever said is
that company's fault.
Both boats should have had lookouts, and that's the most you get. And literally, basically the final statement in this is in 2001, after a public inquiry, so called by the public, the disaster was blamed on both vessels for the lack of lookouts, which once again left the families with zero resolution on how and why their loved ones had died.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that is the wretched, horrible story of the Marchioness. Yeah.
That's awful.
That after all that, still no one's held responsible.
Well, of course not. It's not my fault.
Right. Because, I mean, I look at that and there, if anything, I'd even go beyond the captain to the company who's running that ship. Because you've run into stuff before with these ships. You know there's a giant blind spot. You won't even give them a fucking walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
So they can hear each other.
Exactly.
And I'm sure they're under pressure. Be at this dock at this time. You're carrying shit, so you get those pressures. Yeah, but that's not what happens.
No.
That is not what fucking happens.
Of course not.
So there's the very unsatisfying sort of story of the Marchioness. Did you like it? Do you like the guy who got to watch his friend die, the birthday boy?
Yeah.
Wasn't that great?
Heartwarming.
Fuck that bastard.
Yeah.
Poor man. Fuck. Everyone involved. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This one's
not fun.
No, it was awful.
Yeah.
Turns out a lot of British stories are just devastating. We're going to find that out because our next main one
is
Peter Dinsdale. Oh, God, we back-to-back these well. There's a theme. Depressing Britishness.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it is. I mean, holy shit. This was sad.
Oh, yeah. This is not a happy story.
No, it was not. So if you like that story, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, right.
I mean, seek more help. But if you did, you can feel free to rate and review us on iTunes, or just keep listening, or tell your friends, and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until next time, don't get on any booze cruises in the Thames.
Yeah.
And avoid ships with fucking quarter-mile blind spots just hammering down the river.
Oh, God.
Until next time, have fun, play safe.
Bye.
Bye. You can email us at mentalillnesstheater@gmail.com, and you can find us on social media at Mental Illness Theater, The Worst on Facebook, Mental Illness Theater on Patreon, and Unicorn Holes on Instagram.